makes sense how much effort the CCP has put into operatives in the United States and Taiwan, all their United Front work. Just the degree to which they use these sort of unconventional methods that have really left the Western world, and in particular the United States, just completely clueless to how to deal with it.
Yeah, because they have a methodology that's very different than anything we would do, right? And they do have this Marxist-Leninist ideology, which teaches that the ends are justified, or the ends justify the means, right? In other words, that you can lie, cheat, steal, you can murder, you can do things that are terribly unjust and just fundamentally unfair and wrong, and it's all okay because China's government is on this quest for world socialism and international communism, and somehow magically one day they're going to create heaven on earth, right? They're going to perfect governance, and all war will end, and all human suffering will fall away. As long as we embrace this totalitarian model of dictatorship, one-party dictatorship. And so that justifies all kinds of activities, the likes of which other countries just would not do, and would certainly not invest those kind of resources into doing.
Right, but is it not already heaven on earth for the people living in China?
How did you guys feel? I mean, we all lived in China, right? Even back in the days that some kind of look back on fondly, right? The early 2000s. I'll tell you what. So let me start, and then I'll ask you guys what your experiences were like. When I got to China in February of 2004, I was stunned. It was so different than I had been told it would be. So when I signed up to do the study abroad program at the University of Illinois, we were given a lot of basically propaganda materials about how great it was to study abroad in China. And when I got there, I was just stunned how polluted it was, how much crime there was, how much petty crime there was on the street, how many homeless people there were everywhere, how many beggars there were. I was stunned by the bureaucracy. I thought China was supposed to be very efficient. I thought, this authoritarian China model was supposed to be efficient. It wasn't. That was not my experience at any train station or airport, or getting my student visa renewed, or registering for classes at Fudan University. I just felt like time and time again I had been sold this bill of goods, and China was not at all what I expected it to be. And so I left. I was there for 6 months. I did a study abroad program, and then I traveled around China. And I left, frankly, with kind of a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, it just was not at all what I expected.
So not heaven on earth.
Not heaven on earth. Or if it is, maybe that part of China is hidden away somewhere, and I just did not visit it.
Yeah, I mean, my experience in mainland, and I haven't been back since 2002, but my experience was that there are many beautiful parts of China. Those are the parts that are furthest from the epicenters of power. And Beijing was dirty, polluted, crime-ridden. People were very dishonest with me. Like, I'd go to buy a bus ticket, and the person at the window would say, "Oh, we don't have any tickets available." And then later I'd learn that she was actually lying to me. She just didn't want to deal with me. Just really weird, insane stuff. And then, when I was in, Yunnan province, which is about as far away as you can get from Beijing, it was beautiful, and people were really friendly and nice and things so there was definitely a contrast there. I don't think Yunnan was heaven on earth though, because it was also very impoverished. Definitely in no place in China, and I've been to many parts of China, in no place did I find it to be any kind of paradise, because where things were built up, there was crime and pollution, where things were sort of natural and beautiful, there was also a lot of poverty that clearly the CCP had not lifted people out of.
I was also frustrated by the quality of education, or the lack thereof, right? I mean, I was there as a student, so I was there to seek knowledge, right? Maybe that sounds a little too high-minded. I was there because I wanted to learn, right? I wanted to learn Mandarin, and I wanted to learn about China, and I just felt like we were constantly fed a very skewed version of reality, and we were not allowed to ask basic questions that you get screamed at in your classroom if you asked very basic questions. And it was very clear that there were certain things that were off limits, certain topics of conversation, like Taiwan or Tibet or the Tiananmen Square massacre or the state of human rights more broadly, or why the pollution, things like that, or why so many beggars if this is a socialist paradise is supposed to take care of, you know, the man on the street or the woman on the street. Why so much poverty? That was frustrating because I wanted to learn, and I wanted to be able to ask questions, and I wanted to be able to have candid conversations, and feeling like you couldn't do that, and that you had to constantly be on guard for political reasons, that you couldn't talk about certain topics, which oftentimes were top of mind. I mean, I was there right around the time I was in China. I arrived in China. The president of Taiwan had been shot, and the vice president had been shot on the campaign trail ahead of the election. This is the 2004 election. And I wanted to read about it. And I bought a Newsweek magazine at the student bookstore, Fudan University, and I took it back to my dorm room, and it was the cover story. President of Taiwan shot. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I wonder if there's a conspiracy, or, it's like something out of a Hollywood movie plot. And I take it and I flip open the magazine. I couldn't find the story. And what turns out it had been cut out of the magazine. And then I went back to the bookstore and said, hey, I think this one is, something wrong with this one. And I showed the bookseller, and he said, no problem. We'll get you a new one. I looked at every magazine in the store, and they were all cut out. Then I went to other bookstores, same thing. And so even for English language publications in Shanghai, which is supposed to be this very sophisticated cosmopolitan city, even there, you couldn't get access to basic information about what was going on in the world. And that bugged me. Chris, how about for you? What was your experience?
Well, I have to disagree with both of you. The last time I was in China was in 2020, the Taiwan province. It was absolutely lovely, very built up, lovely people. So yeah, it really did feel like heaven on earth to me.
You know what? True. I was a week ago, I was in the Republic of China, parens Taiwan, and it was quite clean, very, very clean, very efficient, very friendly. Very liberal and open and democratic, all clear protections for all basic human rights. I was very impressed by that part of China myself.
Yeah, and this explains why the CCP wants to take over Taiwan, because they want to bring Taiwanese democracy and values to the rest of China.
It must be the reason. Yeah. I mean, they see a superior model, and it's right there. It's right there, 100 miles away, and they just want in, They want to get a hold of that superior model so they can learn from it. And as we all know, if you want to learn from anybody, you have to put a gun to their head. You have to imprison them and take away all their fundamental rights and occupy their territory, and then sit them down so they can teach you about their way of life and their methods of governance.
Socrates said that, right?
I think was it Socrates or Aristotle that talked about...
Which one came first? I always get that mixed up. But.
Yeah, it definitely goes back to ancient philosophy, right? That you have to invade and occupy your neighbor's territory if you're going to learn from his superior culture.
Right. And you would know this if you were to get, for example, your PhD in Xi Jinping thought.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel silly in retrospect for not taking the time to get a PhD in Xi Jinping thought. But we're all still young, and so we might still have enough time to do it.
Fingers crossed.
Although Xi Jinping writes so prolifically, it's really going to be hard to keep up with him. It might take us 10 or 20 years to finish our dissertation.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for joining us once again. Do you have some kind of book you'd want to promote?
No, I don't write.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like to write, and I certainly don't like to promote books or
If you had written a book.
yeah. If had I notionally, theoretically done
Uh-huh.
that. What I do like to do, Chris and Matt, and you guys know this, I enjoy delicious fresh water from China Uncensored mugs. That's what I'm into.
Who doesn't?